Edinburgh Waverley train station is the 20-platform railway hub that is visited by around 21 million passengers per year, making it the second busiest station in Scotland. You may be wondering, how did it come to this? How did it all start? Well, today we'll be having a look into the history of the station and how it's evolved since the 19th century. Waverley Station has a rather complex backstory, and it starts with the Nor Loch. The Nor Loch was a cesspit in the middle of Edinburgh that citizens would throw their waste into. It was decided in the 1750s that it would be narrowed into a canal, and a bridge built over it to connect the old town to the developing new town on the north side of the loch. The lake was successfully drained, and the North Bridge was built, with the adjacent space having been turned into a garden parallel to Princes Street. You may be wondering how this relates to trains, but bear with me here. Fast forward around half a century and railways are now becoming popular, so in the mid-1830s a railway line was proposed to connect Edinburgh to Glasgow. However, the community was not happy about this. People were convinced that the noise and steam of a railway would ruin the vibe of the peaceful gardens, so Parliament decided it would have to be built elsewhere. Come 1842, the newly founded Edinburgh and Glasgow Railway decided to build their eastern terminus at Haymarket, where the station still stands today. But Will, this video's about Waverley! I'm getting to that. Later into the 1840s, the railway sought another Act of Parliament, and by 1844 they had won access to the garden area. Walls and embankments were built to somewhat conceal the railway. 3 new stations were built around Princes Street Gardens, the first of which being Edinburgh North Bridge Station by the North British Railway in 1846, which brought service down the East Coast Main Line to Berwick-upon-Tweed. The next 2 to be opened were Edinburgh General with the E&GR after building a tunnel through to Haymarket, and Edinburgh Canal Street, which was served by the Edinburgh, Leith and Newhaven Railway, which connected the city centre to the docks of Leith. These 3 stations were collectively called the Waverley, after the Waverley novels by Sir Walter Scott. Hello, we're the North British Railway. Do you own a railway company in and out of Edinburgh? Well, you're owned by us now. That's right. By 1868, the North British Railway had bought out the 2 other companies and demolished all 3 stations and closed the tunnel towards Leith. The station we know today was then built on the site, with Waverley being opened in the latter half of the century, complete with extended platforms and a very fancy glass dome in the waiting room, which was finally finished in 1897. Over in other parts of Edinburgh, the newly founded Caledonian Railway was at work. They had their own temporary station in the West End called Lothian Road, and they ran through Slateford and Motherwell to Glasgow and eventually the West Coast Main Line towards Carlisle. Rail traffic into the west was quickly increasing, so the CR now had no choice but to build a more permanent station. They moved the station slightly north, still on Lothian Road but now closer to Princes Street. The station was renamed to Edinburgh Princes Street, and in 1893 the station was opened. It had 7 platforms. The original Lothian Road station was now being used as a mail and goods terminal. It's now 1923, and the Railway Act of 1921 has just been deployed into the rail system, bringing all the train operators of the UK together into 4 super operators, commonly known as the Big Four. Waverley Station was taken over by the London and North Eastern Railway, and Princes Street Station was now run by LMS. One good thing about the grouping is the fact that there was now direct service from Edinburgh to London, and there was no longer a need to change at 3 different stations mid-journey. Waverley has stayed in continuous use since then, with it living through nationalisation and the arrival of British Railways. Then came the decade that makes rail enthusiasts shudder. The 1960s, which is when the infamous beaching cuts took place. Thankfully, Waverley was not on the list, however Princes Street was. The line from Carstairs was diverted through Haymarket, and the station was finally closed in September of '65. Waverley was electrified in 1991, along with the rest of the ECML, so that diesel traction could now be slowly phased out by more modern and environmentally friendly traction. Eventually, in 1997, privatisation happens, and Waverley was then served by far too many operators once again. I think you've heard the story before. Well, I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing for more stuff like this. I now have a membership program, and joining would not only make me happy, but it gives me a budget to make better videos to make everyone else happy. You've been watching Will Rides Trains, and for that I thank you. Goodbye.